Hey guys, I'm here to get you started lettering with the Tombow Fudenosuke calligraphy pen. We'll be doing some basic drills here in this quick lesson. This is my favorite pen to use when I'm drawing smaller letters. You'll notice that I said drawing there, and that's because whenever I'm using a pen and trying to make my letters look pretty cool, I view it as drawing and not writing. Even if I'm going faster, it's just a little trick that I play in my head. Writing is just what I do when I'm using a regular pen or pencil and jotting things down like a grocery list. But when I'm taking creative notes or addressing an envelope for someone special, or perhaps putting someone's name on a gift tag, then that's drawing to me. In this lesson, I'll be using the hard tip of the Fudenosuke calligraphy pen. This is a great pen to work with because you can learn the basics of calligraphy strokes, but also have a good amount of control of your pen as you go. This is my go-to pen for church notes especially, so you could use these for class note taking, anything like that. And this pen also comes in a broad tip, which I use a bit too. However, for this lesson, we'll be sticking with the fine tip. So getting started, we're going to do some drills to get you used to creating thick and thin strokes and transitioning from thick to thin with curves. The things you'll learn in this lesson will set you up for success when you start drawing letters, because these basic strokes are what make up basically all the letters. So let's get started. I have some templates that you can download from my website, so go ahead and grab those and print them out. I'll be working on my marker paper to do all my practice here, and the vellum tracing paper is also a great option too. If you have neither, you can work right on top of the templates with lighter printed letters. Regular printed paper is not going to be as good for your pens, but it won't eat them up too fast. So if that's all you have, just use what you've got. But I do recommend those other smoother papers for taking good care of your pens. All the blue arrows mean downstrokes, and that's when we'll apply more pressure to create thicker lines. And the pink arrows are for upstrokes, which are thinner strokes where you'll use lighter pressure. Don't worry about the width of your strokes being exactly like the templates, by the way, because they will vary based on which pen you're using. Starting off here, we're keeping it super simple with a basic downstroke. I want to start off applying a lot of pressure and keep that pressure consistent as I create a straight line down. I'm going to start off really slow, as you can see, and trace the lines on my template as I move to the right, but then I'll be drawing them on my own and trying to increase my speed just a little. My lines are not all going to be perfectly straight. The goal here is pretty straight. If we were shooting for perfect, we'd just type this or use a ruler. So just get the idea of total perfection out of your head. Now we'll do a basic upstroke on an angle. Here I'm applying just a little bit of pressure, starting at the bottom and going up, trying to stay consistent. And you can see the comparison. That downstroke is about the maximum width I'll get with my downstrokes using the hard tip. And then this is about the standard I'll get for my upstrokes. I can do thinner, but I get a little shaky when it's too thin. Now we'll move down to the U shape. Here we're practicing going from a thick downstroke into a thin upstroke with a nice, smooth, round transition. So I'm pressing hard down, and as I come to the curve, I begin to let up a bit of the pressure so that it's smooth around the curve up into that upstroke. You may have some wonky ones as you're getting started, and that's why we're practicing. The goal is for things to be I did not say the word perfectly. The goal is for things to be really smooth and round, but you might get some jagged curves like this when you're just starting off. So don't be hard on yourself, just keep practicing and forget that I accidentally just said the word perfect. Okay, so moving over here to the opposite stroke, we're trying to go up with a little pressure, and as we curve over, start applying a little bit more into that nice, thick downstroke. I'm gonna do some wider ones, and then I'll do some thinner ones as I go. It's good to practice those different widths. All right, moving on down, we're going to put those two strokes together, starting off up, then curving, coming down, curving, going back up, and on and on. Trace these first two with the three curves, and then try to do one continuous one across the rest of the page. You'll have to pick up your hand and move as you go, but just lift your pen and place it back down where you left off. You can also do smaller ones and use the baseline in the X height, which is what I'm doing as I move across. And maybe even try to transition from a small curve up into a taller one and back into the smaller. This next one's easy. I probably should have put it before the curve, but we'll just be doing a straight up on a diagonal into a straight diagonal down with the thicker stroke. So up less pressure and thin, then down more pressure to create that thick line. If you've got the curve down, this one's going to be a breeze for you. And again, I'll do one continuous one across and practice going from shorter strokes into longer. So you got this one. Okay, let's move on to a circle or oval. For these, we want to start at the top center and create that thick to thin curve, coming up around at the bottom and releasing the pressure up and thin, meeting our initial stroke at the top. Again, do not be frustrated if this one is tricky at the start. Takes practice, so practice, practice, practice. I like to think of it as starting a new sport when you're a kid. I didn't have a fundamentally sound softball swing the first time I got up to bat. It took practice and more practice to get that technique down. And as I'm moving across the page, I'm starting to do some smaller ones. And then I'm going to try some circles instead of ovals. And you'll see my last two get a little wonky across the top. So don't be frustrated if you're not getting them all as right as you want to. I think ovals are a lot easier than a total circular shape. But you can see I've been doing this a long time and I still make wonky things and it doesn't matter. So moving on to our second sheet, we're going to do some curly cues. The first thing will go up and around and down and go right into the next one doing the same thing. Then I'll do some smaller ones. And one thing you'll also discover as you work is a good speed for your strokes. I'm going to go a bit faster here and you'll see it's causing my upstrokes to jump a little. So knowing what speed to go will also just kind of come with repetition and practice and getting used to it. And now the opposite curly cue. Same idea, we're just overlapping in the opposite way. So up, around, and down, around, up, around, down, around, etc. And then I'll try some smaller ones across the page. Here we're going to do a simple N shape where we're transitioning from a straight downstroke into a curve and back down. So lots of pressure down, thin up and around, back into more pressure down again. And I like to keep this as one stroke, so I'm not lifting my pen up to start the curve up and around. I just draw right back over my downstroke on the way back up. So for these last two, we'll get a bit fancy to prepare us for our flourishes when we get there. So with this first one, I've gone down, swooping down with lots of pressure, up, around, and down, up, around, and down, and one more up, around, and down, ending with just a slight thin upstroke. So up, around, and down, up, around, and down, up, around, and down. So it can be kind of tricky to get the same thick stroke back and forth. So sometimes I will stop, lift up my hand and angle it and bring the pen down different to create that next downstroke. So I have to kind of change my angle a bit. But with flourishes, your thick and thin may vary more, and I'm not as strict with myself on the thick and thin being exactly down and up. I just want line variation however I can get it. Usually my downstrokes coming down towards the right are not very thick if I don't change my hand and pen position. But as long as I'm getting the variation of thick and thin, I'm pretty much happy. So last but definitely not least, we're flipping that flourish upside down and getting a little fancier, finishing it off at the bottom there. And I'll just play a little with some curly cues and things to keep my stroke going. We'll get way more into flourishing because, like I said earlier, it's my favorite, but this is a good place to start with these strokes. And that's it for the drills. Again, make sure you go to the website so that you can download the templates and check out the rest of my Get to Know Tombow classes. We go into lettering sans serif, serif, and script, as well as flourishes, and then get into using the Tombow dual brush pens for lettering as well. You can also use the discount code below and take 20% off any of my online classes. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments or shoot me an email to megan@makewells.com, and I will see you guys back here for an intro to lettering in color.